It's about 2:51 in the morning. Saturday night, Sunday morning. Sunday morning in Isola. Evening your time. I just finished reading America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots by Philip Friedenberg, illustrated by Jeff Walton. And I was thinking all along that I would do a review of the book the day after I read it. I'd take many notes, and I feel that I should just do it fresh. The first things that come to my mind, tired as I am, because I'm so blown away. I don't know where my mind will be tomorrow. I've been reading this book since it was published on Monday. It is not necessarily a book to be read as quickly as I read it, although it is always compelling me to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading. And so I certainly missed a lot. But, when you give a book a rating, there are times when, you've of course given a lot of books a 5-star rating, and you're looking for that extra rating. There, you can't give a 6-star rating on Goodreads. So what is that extra rating for the book that's better than the 5-star books? Moby Dick is better than a 5-star book, because there are a lot of really great books, but there's only one Moby Dick. And what occurred to me is that there are a lot of books that you will read again, and you will read again fairly soon, if not very soon, which is the case with this book. I think I'll take a little break and read something by Dasha Durnadich that I got in the mail from Seshu Foster. But then I'll read this again, and a little bit more slowly, with questions that remain from the first reading. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a category of books that you will read twice, that you might not even say it to yourself at the time. Like, for instance, Fado Alexandrino by Antonio Lobo Antunes. Antunes is a great writer, and I've read a lot of his books. But the only book that I read twice, and it was inevitable that I would read twice. I did read another of his books called South of Nowhere more than twice, but the real great book was Fado Alexandrino, and I read it twice in the same way that I watched The Seven Samurai when the full version came out in the United States, and I watched it. It was on 2 nights in a row at the theater that I lived nearby, and I watched it the first time and I was just amazed, and I watched it again the next night. The same thing happened with Fado Alexandrino. I read it twice in a row, and this is going to happen with America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a Diagnostic. So it's in that category of the very best books. Books you will read twice. And this book is a very strange one for me to discuss because I published it, but that happens often enough. I publish books because I want to, because I think they deserve it, and I love to publish them before I read them. Jeff Bursey's masterpiece, Unidentified Man at Left of Photo, was a blast, that I would have had a little bit less fun reading as an editor. Um, well, so there's nothing strange about the simple fact that I'm reviewing something that I published, except that this book was, uh, in a sense, sparked, not generated, but sparked by Phil's reaction to ordering um, The Cult of the Cactus Boots. No, I mean, sorry, my own book, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas. And our very quick mutual communion. And he started writing the book before Eddie Vegas arrived. And that is reflected in this book. And I knew that Eddie Vegas was, the Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas was a big part of this book in one way or another, but I didn't know the full extent of it. And it's utterly amazing um, the way that he did that, the way that he used my book. But I have to assure you that in reading the book, being the author of a book that this book is sort of about, although it's not really about my book. It could have been any book that was chosen, and his book would have worked. But it was mine, and so I'm in there, and much more so than I would have believed. But what the effect was a sort of inversion of the suspension of disbelief when you know that a character, like there's a Philip Friedenberg and Jeff Walton character in the book, but I read the book as you would normally read a book. They were characters in a book, and I was caught up in their quest in the book. And as far as myself, as far as that went, there was a sort of a relief at being this person in the book and not myself. I was free to read it. And the me in the book was not, did not have the same ego as I have. And I mean ego in the most benign sense. Did not have, it wasn't me, and I did not feel anything about me being in the book except a sort of distanced sense of the generosity of a writer writing about another writer to such a degree and giving, lending so much value to that writer, so much import to that writer, while the writer himself is writing a book that exceeds the book he's writing about, which I believe his does. It's a book of extraordinary grandiosity and extraordinary generosity. It's a book about a dystopian America, or the United States as we know it, and its most important speculative nature, futuristic nature, is in using metaphors that describe the United States of today and tomorrow and next week and next year. And so it's a book about liberating the human beings that live under this horrific um, totalitarian, oligarchic, um, anti-human, anti-creativity um, regime. And that basically is the plot of the book. I could tell you more about the plot of the book, but I'm not sure how much I should because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. There's a structure to the book, and the way that it's usually put is it's a book about writing a book about waiting for a book while waiting for a book about a book, and I can't even say it straight anymore because it is not that simple. There are um, there are not plot turns. There are meta turns. There are temporal turns. There are material turns. I mean, the characters um, uh, take many different forms and throughout the book, and so the simple plot quest is it works. You are drawn in and you follow them. But the simple plot quest aspect of the book can be described and written in a few pages, in fact. But there's so much happening in between, um, and much of it is written, especially earlier in the book. Oh, and there's one thing I wanted to say. This is almost a 600-page book, and it is better. Every 100 pages is better than the last 100 pages. That's one amazing thing about the book. You're immediately you know that you're in something that you've never imagined being written. But the next 100 pages takes you deeper, and it makes your brain expand and somersault um, and strive, and you're drawn further in, not just by the plot quest, but by the quality of the book. The writing is very interesting because early on, the although it's funny throughout, there's some extremely funny things in the book that happen, and when it's funny, it's really funny. But at the same time, there's a great deal of very technical writing in the book, and it is strangely hypnotic, and also it's a joke of its own kind. It's not line by line funny throughout that, although when there's a funny section, for instance, there's some spectacular descriptions of competitive ironing, extreme competitive ironing, and the technical nature of the writing is hilarious on a line by line a line by line basis there. But throughout the book, there's some very technical writing, and it's masterfully done. And but it leads you to wonder at some points early on in the book, is this what this guy writes like? Because um, there's these technical passages, very metaphysical and technical, physiological and technical, and technologically technical. And you begin to wonder because when the plot moves and the writing is at times very simple, and you wonder, is this the greatness of the book? Is that it in terms of the writing? No, it's not. Um, there is something called a word fever that occurs late in the book, is something that I would have to describe as the that captures in perhaps a 40-page section with lots of long sentences and prose poetic grammatical um, writing that is the psychomental flux of the thinking person of our time. And some of it is very funny, some of it is just plain dada or surreal, um, but it also effectively is the psychomental flux of the thinking man of our age. So that when I finished that section, I was depressed. But luckily, the best writing was yet to come. And I would have to say that it's Friedenbergian metaphysical hijinks at times, but it's very sincere. There's a sincerity to this book that I guess when I say grandiosity and generosity, that's a part of it. Because this book is really, really written to change the world. And um, it will do so because it will change every reader who allows it. It will change me. I was in the bathroom today and I wrote this down. How did a simple story get so complex? But I was in the bathroom. I didn't have a pen or paper, so I just used it as a mantra. I think I said it about 50, 60 times. How did a simple story get so complex? How did a simple story get so complex? What was that story? The story of the book, yes, but also the side by side, the story of us, of human beings. How did a simple story get so complex? And so I think I've given you as much as I would like to give you. I will put this on YouTube and I will take questions. And a lot of people have ordered this book, and a lot of people are going to be ordering this book. This book is on the scale of small press releases, this book is a sensation. And the strangest thing about it is, I knew from the beginning by just a couple of things that Phil said that would be the case. And so by September, late September, I knew that this was going to be a great book. And everything that occurred, every communication about the book between then and now reading it only confirmed that it would be. You'll see that if you look, I talk about the best books of 2021, and I mentioned that this would probably be the best one. I mentioned later on that this would be the best book that I ever publish. I think that's probably going to be true. And I'm in a state of literary euphoria. I don't want to go to sleep yet. I don't want to go through the book yet. I just want to revel in the aftermath of one of the most amazing reading experiences I've ever gone through in my life.